Welcome to True Crime Case Files. Today, we delve into the chilling events that unfolded in the winter of 2009 in Toronto, Canada. A city gripped by fear as a string of murders left the community searching for answers. The question on everyone's lips, could a Nepo baby serial killer be walking among them? In the heart of the Great Lakes region, Lana Tompkins was a beacon of potential and creativity. At 26 years old, she hailed from Michigan's bustling city of Detroit, a place that, despite its economic struggles, remained a hub of artistic and cultural diversity. Lana was a graphic designer by trade, her skills honed at the College for Creative Studies, a prestigious institution known for its contribution to the arts. Her portfolio, a vibrant tapestry of digital illustrations and branding projects, was a testament to her ambition and talent. Lana's roots were firmly planted in a close-knit family. She was the youngest daughter of Michael Tompkins, a dedicated automotive engineer at General Motors, and Susan Tompkins, a librarian whose love for books was infectious. Lana's siblings, elder brother David, an up-and-coming lawyer, and sister Emily, a pediatric nurse, shared a strong bond with her, rooted in mutual respect and admiration. Her personality was a blend of warmth and determination, traits that endeared her to friends and colleagues alike. Described by her peers as the life of the party, she had an infectious laugh that could light up even the dullest of rooms. Yet, beneath her cheerful exterior lay a dreamer with aspirations that reached far beyond the confines of her current life. In the days leading up to her untimely death, Lana was brimming with excitement over her plans to expand her design business. She had recently been in talks with potential clients in Toronto, hoping to tap into the city's thriving art scene, which was abuzz with the upcoming Toronto International Film Festival's announcement of its 2009 winners. Social media platforms like Facebook and Twitter, which were hitting their stride in popularity, were abuzz with her latest designs. Her journey to Toronto was not just a business trip. It was a step towards realizing her dream of becoming an internationally recognized designer. Little did she know, the city that symbolized her future aspirations would become the setting of a tragic end to a life full of promise. On December 1, 2009, as the early winter dusk cloaked the city of Toronto in shades of gray, an ominous chill settled over the bustling streets. The Canadian city, usually alive with the sound of holiday shoppers and the sight of festive decorations, was unaware of the grim discovery that would soon disrupt the seasonal cheer. At approximately 7:45 p.m., the Swiss Chalet restaurant, a Canadian staple known for its rotisserie chicken and comfort food, became a crime scene. Nestled on a busy street corner, the establishment was filled with diners seeking refuge from the biting cold that evening. Among them was Janet Wolinski, a local librarian with a penchant for mystery novels, who had stopped by for a quick meal after a long day at the Toronto Public Library. Little did she know that she would stumble upon a real-life horror that no book could prepare her for. Upon entering the ladies' room, Janet was met with a sight that would haunt her for years to come. Lana Tompkins, a visitor from Michigan, lay lifeless on the cold-tiled floor. The victim was dressed for the winter weather, her scarf and coat a stark contrast to the stillness of her form. A luxury belt, an item far removed from the affordable indulgences typically sold in the nearby Eaton Center's holiday market, was wrapped tightly around her neck. Janet's initial shock quickly turned to action as she suppressed her panic and alerted the restaurant manager, who in turn called 911. The dispatcher, trained for emergencies, guided them through the necessary steps while ensuring that the police were promptly en route. Despite the flurry of activity, Janet remained composed, a testament to her strength even in the face of adversity. As the snowflakes of the season began to fall, casting a serene blanket over the city, the warmth inside the Swiss Chalet was irreversibly tainted by the cold reality of a life extinguished too soon. The Toronto Police Service received the distress call from the Swiss Chalet restaurant at 7:52 p.m. on that frigid December evening. Within minutes, the scene was swarming with the flashing lights of emergency vehicles, cutting through the darkness as they arrived with urgency. The first responders were met with a scene that juxtaposed the festive atmosphere typical of the season. A young woman's body lay in the solitude of the restaurant's bathroom, a place where the jovial chatter of diners was replaced by a deafening silence. Detectives James Keller and Sandra Lee, both veterans of the homicide squad, led the investigation. Keller, with his gruff demeanor and a reputation for his dogged pursuit of justice, was well known in the corridors of the 52 Division. His partner, Lee, brought a methodical and detail-oriented approach to the case, her skills honed by years on the force and a keen understanding of the city's diverse communities. The crime scene was meticulously preserved, with the area cordoned off to prevent contamination. Forensic teams donned protective suits as they entered the scene, a procedure that had become almost routine in a city that had seen its share of violent crimes. The air was thick with the scent of disinfectant, a stark contrast to the heavy aroma of gravy and fries that wafted from the kitchen. Lana Tompkins' body showed no immediate signs of a struggle, suggesting she may have known her assailant or been taken by surprise. The murder weapon, a belt from a luxury department store, hinted at a personal attack. Such items were not commonly found in the possession of the average Torontonian. As the forensic team collected evidence, they employed the latest in crime scene technology, including alternate light source imaging and 3D crime scene reconstruction, tools that were just coming into their own at the end of the decade. The meticulous collection of fingerprints and DNA samples was a race against time, with the knowledge that each passing moment could lead the killer further from their grasp. The crime had been committed with a chilling precision that left the seasoned detectives unsettled. As the night wore on, the realization that this case would not be a simple one was dawning on everyone involved. The city of Toronto, normally abuzz with excitement over the upcoming Winter City Festival, was now overshadowed by the specter of a murderer in its midst. As the investigation unfolded, attention turned to Laird Chevalier, a 23-year-old janitor employed at the Swiss Chalet restaurant where Lana Tompkins' body was found. Chevalier, originally from Sherbrooke, Quebec, had moved to Toronto in search of better prospects and was known among his colleagues for his quiet demeanor and punctuality. The young janitor lived a modest life in a small apartment cluttered with architectural blueprints and design magazines, remnants of his abandoned dream to become an architect. A dream thwarted by financial constraints in the global economic downturn of 2008. His social media profiles, sparse and infrequently updated, offered no insights into his personal life, presenting a challenge for the detectives trying to piece together his background. During the interrogation, held in the sterile confines of an interview room at the police station, Chevalier maintained a calm exterior. The detectives, skilled in the art of questioning, probed for inconsistencies in his account of the evening in question. He claimed to have been restocking supplies at the time of the murder, a routine task that left him largely unaccounted for during the critical window. His alibi was met with skepticism. The investigators, aware of the pressures faced by service workers in the city, often highlighted in exposés by the Toronto Star, considered the possibility of a crime of opportunity. However, without a clear motive or evidence linking him to the crime, their suspicions remained unconfirmed. Throughout the questioning, Chevalier cooperated fully, his responses measured and devoid of the defensiveness typical of a guilty conscience. His hands, though roughened by manual labor, showed no signs of involvement in a violent act. The detectives were left to ponder whether his calmness was a facade or a genuine indication of innocence. As the interrogation concluded, the police were no closer to proving Chevalier's involvement in the murder. The investigation would have to delve deeper into the lives of Lana Tompkins and the other individuals connected to the case to uncover the truth behind the tragedy. Nearly 4 days after the tragic discovery of Lana Tompkins, the city of Toronto was shaken once again. On December 5, 2009, Robin Kwan, an 18-year-old high school student, was found dead in the bathroom of a Canadian Tire store on Yonge Street, a bustling retail hub especially crowded during the holiday season. Like Lana, Robin was strangled with a belt that seemed out of place amidst the rows of automotive parts and home essentials, a belt that, upon further investigation, was traced to the same luxury department store chain. Robin, a recent immigrant from Hong Kong, had moved to Canada with her parents in hopes of a better future. She was described by her classmates at Jarvis Collegiate Institute as a bright and ambitious student, her dreams of studying medicine at the University of Toronto driving her to excel academically. Her part-time job at Canadian Tire was a step towards independence and financial support for her education. The investigation led to an interrogation of her coworkers, one of whom was present on the evening of her death. The store manager, a middle-aged man named Douglas Peters, was visibly distraught as he recounted the events of the night. He described Robin as a diligent and reliable employee, her customer service always accompanied by a friendly smile. Social media platforms like Facebook, then at the height of their emerging influence, became a valuable tool in the investigation. Detectives scoured Robin's online interactions for any sign of conflict or distress, but found nothing beyond the usual teenage discourse and aspirations. The police, determined to find a connection between the two murders, questioned Robin's friends and family with sensitivity, understanding the cultural nuances of her community. Her parents, overwhelmed by grief, struggled to comprehend the senseless loss of their daughter, their dreams shattered in an instant. Despite the meticulous interrogation of those within Robin's immediate circle, the police found no clear motive or suspect. The killer remained at large, his or her identity shrouded in mystery, leaving the city's residents in a state of heightened anxiety and fear. The investigation took a pivotal turn on the morning of December 7, 2009. A gray overcast sky loomed over Toronto, a reflection of the somber mood that had enveloped the city since the string of unsettling murders. The crisp winter air was heavy with anticipation as the Toronto Police Service worked tirelessly to connect the dots between the two cases. A breakthrough came when a loss prevention officer from Holt Renfrew, an upscale department store renowned for its curated selection of luxury goods, contacted the authorities. The officer had been reviewing security footage as part of the store's routine protocols heightened during the holiday shopping frenzy. Amidst the footage, a figure caught their attention, a young man purchasing several high-end belts, the same type used in the murders. The surveillance video timestamp coincided with the days leading up to the first murder. The young man's face was clear, his demeanor calm as he made the transactions. The footage was promptly handed over to the police, who disseminated stills to local media outlets, including CP24 and the Globe and Mail, in a bid to solicit the public's help in identifying the individual. The response was swift. Tips flooded in, and the public's vigilance was palpable. Social media buzzed with activity as the images circulated on Twitter and Facebook, where concerned citizens shared information and expressed their unease about the brazen nature of the crimes. Detectives Keller and Lee analyzed the footage, noting the suspect's confidence and the ease with which he navigated the upscale environment. The belts, an accessory to fashion for most, had become an instrument of death in his hands. As the day progressed, the weather took a turn, and light snow began to fall, blanketing the city in a deceptive calm. But the police were far from tranquil, as this new evidence presented a tangible lead. The race was on to identify the young man before he could strike again, and with the city on edge, the pressure was mounting to bring the perpetrator to justice. The investigation's urgency intensified on December 9, 2009, as another life was claimed under chillingly similar circumstances. Yaira Dominguez, a 21-year-old single mother and recent immigrant from Holguin, Cuba, was found in the staff bathroom of an A&W restaurant, her life extinguished by the same method, a luxury belt, now a grim signature of the killer. Yaira, who had sought a new beginning in Canada for herself and her young daughter, worked tirelessly at the counter, serving customers with a hopeful smile. Her aspirations to enroll in a nursing program at Ryerson University were fueled by a determination to provide a better life for her child. The A&W on Queen Street, often bustling with locals and tourists alike, was a stark contrast to the quiet tragedy that unfolded within its walls. The police, now grappling with a serial killer, focused their investigation on the individual captured in the Holt Renfrew security footage. The manhunt led them to James Deacon Price, a 17-year-old high school student from one of Canada's most prestigious private schools. Deacon Price, the only child of a prominent Bay Street financier and a socialite known for her philanthropic endeavors, lived a life of privilege that was well documented in the society pages of the Toronto Star. During his interrogation, Deacon Price's demeanor was unsettling. He was neither overtly nervous nor particularly cooperative, responding to the detective's questions with a nonchalance that belied the gravity of the situation. His digital footprint revealed a trail of arrogance, with social media posts that showcased a lavish lifestyle and a sense of entitlement that was out of touch with the economic reality faced by many Torontonians post-recession. The police probed for a motive, delving into Deacon Price's past and his relationships. His peers described him as aloof and often dismissive of those he deemed beneath him. Yet, there was no clear reason why he would target victims like Lana, Robin, and Yaira, women who were strangers to him, each battling their own struggles and chasing their dreams in a city that promised opportunity. As the interrogation continued, the detectives were left to ponder whether Deacon Price's actions were the result of a deeply rooted pathology or a perverse desire to exert control over the vulnerable. The answers, however, remained just out of reach, leaving the investigators to piece together the puzzle of a young man's descent into darkness. Amidst the backdrop of a snow-dusted Toronto, a narrative of privilege and malice began to unfold. By mid-December 2009, the city, usually preoccupied with the festive spirit and the recent Grey Cup victory of the Montreal Alouettes, found its attention riveted on a series of brutal murders. The common thread, a luxury belt used as a garrote, led investigators to James Deacon Price, a 17-year-old student from a prestigious private school. Deacon Price, the progeny of wealth and status, stood in stark contrast to his victims, women striving for betterment amidst the economic aftershocks that continued to reverberate from the 2008 financial crisis. His life, documented in the society pages and on nascent social media platforms, was punctuated by galas and exclusive events, a stark departure from the everyday struggles of Lana Tompkins, Robin Kwan, and Yaira Dominguez. The investigation revealed a chilling portrait of the young man. Despite his seemingly idyllic upbringing, Deacon Price harbored a morbid curiosity. His internet history, scrutinized by cybercrime specialists, unveiled a fascination with the macabre and the mechanics of death, a digital trail that added a layer of complexity to the case. In a coldly calculated manner, Deacon Price had sought out his victims, each selected with a predator's precision. The belts, purchased from high-end retail stores like Holt Renfrew, were not just tools but trophies, selected to satisfy a twisted desire for power and control. It was a desire he confessed to during interrogation, stating with chilling detachment that he wanted to know what it felt like to end a life. The motive, as articulated by Deacon Price, was as banal as it was horrifying: a quest for sensation, an experiment in mortality, devoid of any personal vendetta against the victims. He believed his affluent background made him untouchable, a belief that would soon be disproven by the weight of evidence against him. As the pieces of the puzzle fell into place, the detectives faced the daunting task of proving Deacon Price's guilt beyond a reasonable doubt. The city watched, its collective breath held, as the wheels of justice began to turn against a young man who had stepped far beyond the bounds of society's norms. The morning of December 11, 2009, dawned with a brittle clarity over Toronto, the city's iconic CN Tower piercing a sky of unbroken blue. The metropolitan area was still reeling from the revelations surrounding the high-profile case that had dominated headlines in the Globe and Mail and the incessant chatter on talk radio stations like CFOB. The Toronto Police Service, armed with incontrovertible evidence and a confession, prepared to make an arrest that would resonate through the corridors of power in the city. In the affluent neighborhood where James Deacon Price resided, opulent homes were adorned with tasteful Christmas decorations, a stark contrast to the somber task at hand. The young suspect, heir to a family legacy of wealth and influence, was apprehended at his family's stately residence, a place that had been featured in the glossy pages of Toronto Life magazine. The arrest was executed with precision, the culmination of countless hours of investigation by a task force determined to see justice served. Detectives Keller and Lee, accompanied by uniformed officers, approached the Deacon Price home as the first light of day reflected off the freshly fallen snow. The suspect, confronted with the reality of his situation, displayed a flicker of surprise before his expression settled into one of resigned acceptance. The reaction of Deacon Price, who had so cavalierly confessed to his heinous acts, was one of detached acknowledgement, a far cry from the arrogance he had exhibited in his online persona and in the interrogation room. As he was led away in handcuffs, the gravity of his fate seemed to settle upon him, a stark departure from the invulnerability he had once assumed. Meanwhile, the families of the victims, who had been notified of the impending arrest, experienced a tumult of emotions. Relief mingled with sorrow, the reality that nothing could bring back their loved ones setting in. The arrest, while a closure of sorts, was also a reminder of the gaping wounds left by the loss of Lana, Robin, and Yaira. As the news of the arrest spread, the city of Toronto breathed a collective sigh of relief. The imminent threat was contained, but the scars left by the actions of James Deacon Price would linger in the city's collective memory for years to come. The trial of James Deacon Price commenced in the spring following a winter that had seen Toronto gripped by the chilling narrative. The old City Hall Courthouse, a Romanesque revival building that had stood as a symbol of justice since the late 1800s, was the stage for a legal battle that would capture the attention of the nation. The media, from CBC News to the smaller local outlets, were assembled, their cameras and microphones poised to document every development. The prosecution was led by Elizabeth Chester, a formidable figure with a reputation for her incisive courtroom tactics. At 45, Chester was a seasoned prosecutor, her career defined by a string of successful convictions. She approached the case with a steely determination, framing Deacon Price as a predator who had exploited his social status to carry out his crimes with a chilling sense of entitlement. The defense was in the hands of Jonathan Hale, a defense attorney known for his eloquent arguments and charismatic presence in the courtroom. Hale, at 50, had made a name for himself representing some of the city's most challenging cases. He contended that Deacon Price, despite his confession, was a product of a society that glorified wealth and neglected the mental health of its youth. Throughout the proceedings, the courtroom was heavy with emotion. The victims' families, present at each day of the trial, sat with a dignified composure that occasionally gave way to tears as the details of their loved ones' final moments were laid bare. The public gallery, often filled to capacity, listened with rapt attention as witnesses recounted the events leading up to the fateful discoveries in December 2009. As the trial progressed, the city followed the unfolding drama, the case becoming a topic of heated discussion on platforms like Twitter, where the hashtag Deacon Price trial trended for weeks. The trial not only questioned the morality of the accused, but also held up a mirror to the societal divisions and disparities that had allowed such a tragedy to occur. The courtroom was hushed as the trial of James Deacon Price reached its climax. After weeks of intense deliberations and testimonies that had been scrutinized by legal experts and armchair analysts alike on forums and in the comment sections of the Toronto Sun, the moment of reckoning had arrived. The city, still under the shadow of the atrocities, awaited justice for Lana, Robin, and Yaira. Elizabeth Chester, her arguments grounded in the stark reality of the evidence, had painted a portrait of a remorseless killer in Deacon Price. The defense, led by Jonathan Hale, had sought to humanize the accused, emphasizing his youth and the psychological complexities that may have led to his actions. The jury, faced with the weight of their civic duty, retreated to consider the fate of the young man whose privileged life had taken such a dark turn. The verdict was delivered on a day that saw the streets of Toronto bustling with the usual cadence of city life, the conversations of passers-by punctuated by the latest hits playing from the storefronts of HMV and Virgin Megastore. Guilty on all counts, the words echoed through the courtroom, a solemn affirmation of the justice system's resolve. Sentencing followed, the judge imposing a life sentence without the possibility of parole for 25 years. The punishment, while severe, sparked debate across the city's diverse neighborhoods and in the opinion columns of the Globe and Mail. Some argued that the sentence was too lenient for the gravity of the crimes, while others pondered the effectiveness of retribution over rehabilitation. For the victims' families, the sentencing brought a measure of closure, though the verdict could not fill the void left by their loss. Their reactions were a blend of relief and sorrow, a complex tapestry of emotions that reflected the irrevocable impact of the crimes. The verdict's ripple effects extended beyond the courtroom, igniting conversations about the societal implications of the case and the nature of justice. As the city moved forward, the legacy of the trial remained, a stark reminder of the fragility of life and the profound consequences of one individual's actions. The conclusion of the trial marked a new chapter for the city of Toronto. As the winter of 2009 became a memory and the cityscape bloomed with the arrival of spring, the community sought to rebuild and find a sense of normalcy after the harrowing events that had unfolded. The bustling streets, once the backdrop for a narrative of horror, slowly returned to their former rhythm, the vibrant pulse of Canada's largest city undiminished. The families of Lana Tompkins, Robin Kwan, and Yaira Dominguez faced the daunting task of moving forward without their loved ones. Their grief was a private affair, each finding solace in different ways, some through advocacy and speaking out against violence, others in the quiet remembrance of the lives so cruelly taken. The pain of loss was a constant companion, but so too was the strength they found in their communities and in each other. Detectives Keller and Lee, the faces of the investigation, received commendations for their work. Yet the accolades did little to erase the images and testimonies that would linger in their minds long after the case was closed. They continued their service, their resolve strengthened by the knowledge that their efforts had brought a measure of justice to the bereaved. As for James Deacon Price, his conviction and subsequent incarceration became the subject of continued media interest. True crime podcasts and television specials analyzed every facet of the case, from his privileged upbringing to the psychological profile that emerged during the trial. In prison, Deacon Price became another inmate, his notoriety a stark departure from the life of luxury he had once known. The broader community grappled with the implications of the case, discussions about mental health, societal privilege, and the criminal justice system taking center stage in university lectures and coffee shop debates. The murders had left an indelible mark on the city's consciousness, prompting reflection on the vulnerabilities and inequalities that existed within the urban tapestry. As years passed, the case of the James Deacon Price remained a cautionary tale, a reminder of the darkness that can lie beneath a facade of normalcy in the enduring quest for justice in the face of senseless violence. The case of the Nepo baby serial killer serves as a grim reminder of the darkness that can lurk behind a facade of privilege. It's a story that shook Toronto and one that True Crime Case Files will never forget. Thank you for joining us, and stay tuned for our next episode. Hey, True Crime Case Solvers, interested in more real-life murder mysteries? Be sure to like and subscribe to our channel. And do you have any thoughts about this case or have a case of your own you'd like us to investigate? Leave us a comment. Until then, stay safe, True Crime Case Solvers.